Support.
The maestro, please!
What a better way to spend Valentine's Day than talking about new music that has nothing to do with Valentine's Day. This'll be for the week of
February 15th, 2020.
On this day in music back in 1967, Aretha Franklin recorded her version of what would soon become her very well-known song, Respect. And I say her version because it was originally done in 1965 by Otis Redding. We've only had one new classical album this year. Everything else we've talked about is simply old albums that recharted. Shout out to Sheko Kenna Mason, though.
Don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing.
And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
I feel like we've been talking a lot about Louis Armstrong lately with all of these older compilation albums recharting. Not exactly a bad thing, but hopefully you're not tired of When It's Sleepy Time Down South.
Singing.
Comes down, Armageddon's back in town. You can't tell the rabbit from the hat.
Very much a political album, and you can figure that out just by looking at the names of the tracks. So if you're not into politics, I would recommend maybe not listening to this, but at the same time, if you're not into politics, I question why you're even listening to rock in the first place, considering its history is, well, very political. Number 33 of these Dave's picks, this concert recorded in its entirety occurred on October 29th, 1977 at the Evans Field House at Northern Illinois University in DeKalb, Illinois.
And I know I've been around, but I swear you got the best on earth. Yeah. I got drip on the floor.
Some people may say this is his third studio album, but that's only with the Columbia label. If you look at his entire career, this is actually his 14th studio album.
Welcome to the funeral, close casket as usual. Whole family delusional. Amen, hallelujah though.
When we talked about his last album, The Carter 5, I mentioned that he would be possibly retiring, and now all of a sudden we have this new album. However, if you look at the recording date for this album, it actually started in 2016, and he recorded it all the way through 2019 to finally get this big album. Of course, this name, Funeral, is fairly indicative that he actually might retire this time, but who knows, it's Lil Wayne. Nothing new in the top 5, but if you look at the top 25, which is the entirety of the EDM charts, there are a couple of new ones, so hopefully they'll get into the top 5.
And now I need some help from the maestro, please!
Yeah, Hollywood is bleeding, but we call it home.
It's now officially tied with beer bongs and Bentleys for the amount of times I've talked about the album on this show, meaning if it makes it to next week, it will officially become the album that we have talked about the longest on this show.
And I know I've been around, but I swear you got the best on earth. Yeah. I got drip on the floor.
His last album, Zoo, also got to number 4 on the hip-hop charts, but got to number 2 on the Billboard 200, whereas this one is currently just sitting at number 4. At the same time, it is competing with Eminem and Lil Wayne and Roddy Ricch.
Like the letter V, killing everything, play this tune at your eulogy, it's your funeral, prepare to die, this is music for you to be murdered by.
He performed Lose Yourself at the Oscars this past Sunday from the movie 8 Mile, and a lot of people don't seem to understand the significance of that. So typically at the Oscars, every song nominated for Best Original Song is performed at the ceremony. However, Eminem wanted to perform it uncensored, and the Academy wouldn't allow him to do that, so he just didn't perform it. Now, 17 years later, they finally agreed to let him perform the entire song uncensored. At least for the performance, they still censored the broadcast.
Tony fuck 12 fuck SWAT, busting all the bells out the box. I just hit a lick with the box, had to put the stick in the box.
Roddy Ricch is certainly having the pressure applied to him for his next release, considering how well this one is doing.
Welcome to the funeral, close casket as usual. Whole family delusional. Amen, hallelujah though.
With Lil Wayne up here at number 1 and Eminem not too far behind, it's an interesting combination of old and new hip-hop. Lil Wayne and Eminem being like from the early 2000s, and then we have Russ, Post Malone, and Roddy Ricch. Not exactly your typical Valentine's Day playlist, but hey, I'm sure there are a couple of songs in here that are somewhat romantic.
And now I need some help from the maestro, please! Maestro!